here's a Scared for Real's Legacy Special.
Hey, Chris O'Neill.
And Adam Perry.
All right, we're going to talk about 1999 this year. What an incredible year. 25 years, a quarter of a century, Adam.
Yes, and you know, it's been a minute since we've done one of these year retrospective shows, so 1999.
Yeah, what a year it was.
Yeah, awesome year for movies, as always when we do these sort of things, but you know, movies that aren't on our list to be mentioned, Matrix.
Yeah, The Matrix. That was like one of the first films that people talk about when they think of 1999 was The Matrix. One of the most stunning visual effects laden movies of all
Absolutely.
time. Fight Club was such a huge success.
Yes.
David Fincher fresh off the game, and what an
Surprise
incredible
success.
film. Yeah, I know.
Surprise success.
Yeah. The Fight Club is quite the challenging read for a book, and he did such a great job adapting it.
Yeah.
The Green Mile came out that year.
Yeah.
I mean, American Beauty won Best Picture, and
I mean, if you've just listened to our Watchers episode, The Sixth Sense.
yeah, The Sixth Sense. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan really had like a big breakthrough with that movie.
Sure.
It was just such an incredible year for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of peaked almost after The Sixth Sense with Unbreakable, and then he started to slide downhill. Anyway.
Before, as I've said before, I think Sixth Sense is my favorite of the Shyamalan movies.
Yeah.
So yes, here we are with 1999. We both have our lists of our favorite movies from 1999. Mixes horror, all genres.
Yes.
You know, so we're going to be talking all genres instead of just our normal horror and cult classics.
Right. Right.
Because there's just so much to talk about. So much awesome cinema from that year.
Right, and I do actually have a couple of big cult classics that were really divisive at the time, but now have grown to be loved by cinephiles.
And I got a couple good horror hits that, some of them, when I was looking through the list, Chris.
Yeah.
And I'll get to it in a second, but I forgot that it came out in 1999. So, but we'll talk about that one later on the list.
A big horror movie came out that year, Blair Witch Project,
Yes, that's one I'm not talking about.
Well, I'm not talking about it either, but
we're talking about movies we liked.
Yeah.
I did not like the Blair Witch Project.
It was such a huge
It was
hit,
a phenomenon.
Though, and I did try to watch it. I didn't watch it in the theaters. That's probably where I should have watched it, was in the theater.
All right, if we're going to go down the Blair Witch rabbit hole here, the Blair Witch Project had a phenomenal marketing campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Making everybody in the world believe that this thing was real. And
right.
This was a real found footage, and that these teenagers were really killed out in these woods. The movie itself, Chris, if I knew all I had to do, just like Paranormal Activity, but Paranormal Activity actually had a really good story. If I knew all I had to do was take a home video camera, run around the woods and scream like an idiot for 90 minutes and show absolutely nothing and make $1 million.
And jarring camera movements.
I would have done it. So there's the Blair Witch Project. That's our review.
I couldn't watch the whole thing, so I can't fairly give it a review. I couldn't sit through it.
Yeah.
So Adam, why don't you start off the list?
Okay, we'll start off my list with we're going to go back to the world of 007. It seems like I always have a Bond movie when we do these year. But my favorite James Bond was Pierce Brosnan. This is my second favorite of his.
What's your first favorite?
My first favorite is GoldenEye.
Well, how could you not?
GoldenEye, it's my favorite Bond movie of all time.
Well, we'll talk about that.
I love GoldenEye, but his my second favorite of his run was his third movie, The World Is Not Enough.
Yes. Robert Carlyle.
Yes.
Sophie Marceau.
Yes.
And that was
Denise Richards. She was at the height of her.
She was so blah in that, I thought. But
I thought she didn't do. I didn't.
I mean, the Bond movies, to be fair, they don't require top acting talents.
Yeah.
But you could have had a more charismatic leading lady.
You could have.
I mean, it would almost been better to have Sophie Marceau play the Bond girl I mean, she could have played both parts. I mean, she's just such a brilliant actress, very underrated actress. Because the only other movie I had seen from Sophie Marceau was the world famous Braveheart.
Right.
And then I see her in this movie, and it's like, okay. And then the big plot twist: she's the main villain.
Yeah, but you know what? Talking about Bond girls, I mean, can't you make an argument that she's a Bond girl too? I mean,
well, they shag together.
You're not limited to one Bond girl a movie.
No, but she's not the lead.
No,
she's the lead villain.
Yeah,
but and that was a good plot twist, having her as the main villain. And kind of the demise was kind of underwhelming. But
right, I know. I just
it's not a bad movie. I mean, Robert Carlyle is such an interesting actor.
Yes,
and from Train Spotting, I mean, look at how brilliant he was in that. And then, he was in Angela's Ashes. Angela's Ashes, that's another 1999 movie I could have easily brought up. It's very bleak. But Robert Carlyle did Angela's Ashes and The World Is Not Enough. They both came out the same year, Adam.
Right.
And it just showed how brilliant of an actor he was.
Sure. And
anyway, I'm kind of taking over your movie. So. What about this movie? Did you like it so much? I mean, it's your second favorite Bond movie?
Not my second favorite Bond movie. My second favorite Pierce Brosnan's movie. My favorite is GoldenEye all time. If I had to pick a favorite Bond, I would pick Pierce Brosnan. So in the 4 movies he did, this is my second favorite. For whatever reason, I just didn't click with Tomorrow Never Knows and Die Another Day. I didn't, for whatever reason.
Yeah, Die Another Day was kind of a mess. I liked Michelle Yeoh, so I mean, that was like her first real big American movie, and it was like you had like one of the biggest Hong Kong actress stars of all time in a Bond movie, and she's completely wasted.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. But again, after watching, Tomorrow Never Knows, this just had a better feeling to it. It felt more like GoldenEye. It felt,
the villain was a whole lot better.
The villain was
I love
way better.
Jonathan Pryce is a brilliant actor. There's nothing wrong with Jonathan Pryce, but the role that they gave him, he did okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonathan Pryce is always fun to watch.
Right.
But Tomorrow Never Dies, it was just such a disappointment. I totally agree with you on that one. I have it because I love Michelle Yeoh, and she had retired from acting, believe it or not. She got married. She kind of disappeared from acting in like the late 80s.
Yeah.
And then when things didn't work out, she came back with the awesome Super Cop. Did you ever watch that one?
Yes, Super Cat.
I think she got injured on that one. I think they both, her and Jackie Chan.
Everybody got
we'll talk about that movie some other time, but that brought her back into the forefront and eventually into international stardom. But anyways,
a really good plot twist I liked in this. I liked seeing M compromised.
Oh yeah, Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah, because I liked Judi Dench as M. I thought it was a really good take on the character. But whereas M, being portrayed before, even Judi Dench, up until this movie, kind of played a traditional M, where she, just kind of gives Bond the barking order, the marching orders, and he does it. Well, now she's like actively involved in the plot,
right?
And we see a human side of M, and for once, like, she's not listening to Bond, and she ends up getting compromised, even though Bond's warning her about Elektra.
Right.
And it was just a really good, well played out plot twist.
And just so you know, I could watch even I won't watch the Cats movie that Judi Dench was in, but most movies that features Dame Judi Dench, I will watch. Unfortunately, her health is not the greatest anymore. I mean, gosh, I think she's 90.
She's got to be close to it.
But what an incredible persona. I mean, she grew up with she's a Shakespearean stage actress, and she didn't break into movies until, I think, the first time that I can remember seeing her on screen was Hamlet with Kenneth Branagh.
Right.
And she also did Mrs. Brown. That was like her big breakthrough. But yeah, like the 90s, she'd been on the stage most of her career.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I mean, again, The World Is Not Enough. It was traditional Bond. You had, the beautiful Bond girls,
Right.
a lot of action, a good story, stolen nuclear weapons. What more do you want from James Bond?
And where was Robert Carlyle's character? Was he had like a bullet in his brain, kind of, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah. I mean,
wow.
You had villains that really lived up to the franchise, and their caricatures, and World Is Not Enough is the first on my list. And again, I bring James Bond to the podcast.
See, Christopher Nolan could have made his, because he did the two bad guy thing in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
And it was very underwhelming. It's like Bane just gets swiped aside. Robert Carlyle is like the Bane type character in this because he's manipulated,
right?
By Sophie Marceau's villain, and just like Dark Knight Rises, but the ending was a little more satisfying in this. The World Is Not Enough, but it's probably my second favorite Brosnan movie as well.
Yes. All right, Chris.
Well,
what's your first on your list?
Well, I kind of cheated. I know we were supposed to only do 5 movies, but these 2 movies you kind of have to talk about hand in hand. Okay. First off, Zhang Yimou. There's like a couple different ways you can pronounce this Chinese director's name, but you probably, Adam, remember his movie Hero with Jet Li.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that was like his first big internationally successful movie. I think Tarantino had a lot to do with that. But him and Gong Li, was like they were like the big muse. It was like his muse. It was Zhang Yimou and Gong Li are like Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese, Toshiro Mifune, and Akira Kurosawa. They're one of the biggest director-star combinations of all time. But they kind of parted ways in 1995 after Shanghai Triad. For whatever reason, they just didn't get along anymore. They were kind of dating it, I think, off and on, too. So you had, like, personal stuff into the mix.
Little complications.
So this was, like, Not One Less is his second film without Gong Li, okay? And he decided to go. You ever heard the term neorealism?
Yes.
So he went all neorealism. He did that, experimented with the neorealism in with a Gong Li film back in 1992, and he literally had like real people in the movie and everything like that. This all non-professional actors, Adam.
Oh,
all
nice.
of them are non-professionals, and it gives it a real lot of vibes. So there's a lot of quick edits in this movie.
Yeah.
And, because sometimes they couldn't get the scene right, so they had to keep doing take after take. But basically, he had like a love-hate relationship with China. The People's Republic of China, as you know. A lot of controversy there, just mentioning it. So what the People's Republic of China wanted to do in the 90s was kind of rejuvenate their educational program, okay? And because of the 60s, 70s, even in the early 90s, it just fell apart.
Right.
So there was like a 7-year period from 1993 to 2000. They really wanted to rejuvenize their education program because they found out there was like millions upon millions upon millions of people that were not educated, Adam.
Wow.
And so this movie is very controversial. Again, it's called Not One Less, and you got this 13-year-old girl who's a substitute teacher, and she's taken over for 1 month, and her goal is not to lose one student, hence the title, Not One Less.
Right.
But then one of the kids runs away because, he's trying to provide for his family, needs to work, and it's just like a young kid. I mean, she's young herself. She's only 13. So she has to leave the school to go find this kid because she can't lose any kids. So this movie has been controversial. He got a lot of flack for it because some people interpreted this as a pro-China movie,
Right.
where one could actually say it's a critique of the Chinese educational system. So it's a very controversial movie, no matter way you look at it. But
Right.
it's such an amazing story. I mean, you take the politics out of this, and it's such an amazing story. I mean, this 13-year-old girl teaching these group of kids, and she's like maybe 5, 6 years older than some of these kids. Can you imagine doing that?
No. No.
I mean, it's just such an incredible film, and this is such a smaller film in Zhang Yimou's filmography. Again, The Great Wall. Remember that movie with Matt Damon?
Yes.
I mean, that was probably his biggest budget movie to date. I mean, he's gotten a lot of international acclaim, and most of his movies are very lush, very colorful. I mean, again, this is colorful, but it's a smaller, low budget film, but it's such an impactful film. I highly recommend it. Again, no one talks about this.
No.
And that's why I wanted to bring up this movie as well, The Road Home. You know, Zhang Ziyi, you remember her from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, right?
Yes.
This was her very first movie.
Oh, cool.
Very first movie. And, of course, after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, she blew up.
Yep.
She blew up into superstardom. But, yeah, right after Zhang Yimou did Not One Less, he decided to go kind of back to his hometown a little bit, where he grew up kind of. Now, it's based on a novel that was written a few years prior called Remembering, and it's called The Road Home. This movie, even if, you know, what is this watery discharge coming from my eyes, you know? So basically, a son returns home when he receives word that his father has died. So again, hopefully I'm not going to spoil this for you. I'm not going to reveal the ending of these movies. I want you to see these because it just seems like when everyone talks about Zhang Yimou, you've got the 8 Gong Li movies he did with her, and you have Hero, House of Flying Daggers, and then you have The Great Wall, and that everyone thinks that sums up his career, but he's done so many other films. And The Road Home is a tribute to his own parents.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this love story, it's very personal, and when you watch the movie, it tugs at the heartstrings because it's very personal. It's a very personal film for him. So his son returns home, and it's such a beautiful landscape, and I'm telling you, the movie starts off, though, in black and white, as the son is traveling back to his house of his birth, and he's got to deal with the funeral arrangements for his dad. And his mom she's really old, and there's an old Chinese custom where you bring the body back, you carry the body back and bury him or her in the hometown, basically. So that's what she wants to do. Basically what happened with him, he was a teacher as well, so these movies are kind of like it's like a teacher double feature, if you will. Some Chinese educational teacher stuff in these movies. So basically, his father was a teacher, and his father was trying to rejuvenate the school in that hometown because he had come there for 40 years prior as a young teacher. He was fresh out of school, and he was tasked with helping build the school and teach. So that's what he did for 40 years.
Wow.
And unfortunately, when he was trying to get funds, he went to a different county. There was a major storm, and he got sick, and he passed away. But he didn't pass away at home. He was in a different county.
Okay.
So, yeah, hence why he had to be carried home. And the son's like, well, why don't we just pay, and have him delivered back? And she was adamant he must be carried home. Literally carried.
Oh, wow.
And I don't want to get into the resolution of that because it's very heartwarming. And again, not a lot of people I know of have seen these Zhang Yimou movies, so I don't want to give too much away. But The Road Home is a magnificent film, and it goes into color, Adam. Now, the movie is in black and white. It starts off that way, and it goes into color when the son reflects on his parents' love story. It's got a fairy tale kind of story element. The son is narrating, so he kind of even alludes that it's like a fairy tale. But it's just it's a predictable story. But the way Zhang Yimou presents it in such a lush, colorful setting, it's hard not to get sucked up in it. And again, it's presented, and it's not like we see these type of, the way it's presented is not the way you usually see it. And I love how he presents it. Again, it's such a simple story. Both of these are very simply shot movies, but as Martin Scorsese points out, simple is hard.
Yes.
And
certainly can be.
And I highly recommend Zhang Yimou, again, Mr. Action, epic. Most of his films are of epic nature, but these, not one less. The Road Home, they're both 25 years old, and they've got great Imprint. I don't know if you've heard of Imprint Video. Yeah, they're Australian, Via Vision Entertainment. It's like an umbrella, and they both released these. Again, unfortunately there's no special features on there, but the movies have never looked better. So highly recommend Not One Less and The Road Home, directed by the legendary Zhang Yimou. What's next for you, Adam?
All right, 1999. So 1999, I am 13 years old.
Yeah.
About to walk into high school. And a movie that was very popular amongst the teenage crowd, the MTV crowd. I picked this one because it related to me.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Varsity Blues.
Interesting.
John
Voight.
John Voight, James Vanderbeek,
Dawson.
Paul Walker. Yes.
That's right. Paul Walker. He was not the lead in this movie.
Yeah, but he was the quarterback superstar.
I know. Yeah. But it's interesting to note that Paul Walker would eventually become a superstar a year later with the Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
So this is like a couple years before Paul Walker really exploded.
Yeah, and obviously the popularity of Dawson's Creek. Whether you were a fan of Dawson's Creek or not, Dawson Creek was huge.
Oh yeah.
In the 90s. I mean massive.
Yeah, the show lasted like 8 or 9 years. Wasn't it?
And so
James Vanderbeek, that was what he was noted for, and he tried to branch out, and unfortunately, this movie doesn't like branch too far away from Dawson. But
it's really a fantastic look into culture and varsity sports. I was an athlete in high school. And like just there was so much, John Voight, what a villain! what an awesome villain in this movie.
I would say it's like I know antagonist means the same thing, but it sounds a lot better because John Voight's not really a bad guy. He's just headstrong and he's very. He's not. I don't want to say R. Lee Ermey like Full Metal Jacket, or J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. He's not that. Oh no,
bad. No. But like he's definitely
he's an antagonist of the story.
He's a coach that I guess he lost his moral way. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So
a coach like him would not be employed.
But and I'll relate it to like my kind of upbringing. Like I kind of experienced that with coaches where I went to my local high school.
Huh.
I'll get to that in a second, but for those of you who don't know or haven't seen Varsity Blues, basically it's a small town in Texas. Football, high school football is everything to this town. This team, they're multiple time state champions. You get a feeling that a lot of their players go on to either at least Division I football and pros. That's where like our main Paul Walker character, that's where he's looking to go and stuff like that. It just being 13, going into high school, and watching this, it just hit so many things. Parents living vicariously through their kids.
Your parents did that?
They didn't. My parents didn't do that, but you can relate to it. You can, especially when it comes to playing sports, because all of our parents played sports, so and they want to see their kids.
Yeah, my father. I can actually relate to that because my father really wanted me to play sports. So I tried basketball, tried soccer, baseball. I tried too. I just I couldn't connect with the sports. It just wasn't my thing. And
and it wasn't everybody's thing. And,
no.
And
so what did you play? You said you can. Did you play football like this movie?
All right. So
because
this is interesting because yes, when I was in junior high school, middle school, or whatever you want to call it, I played football. I was on the starting team and eventually a captain. And then I wrestled. And then I was a wrestler. As you transition to high school, football, just like in this movie, was the dominant sport where I went to high school, just like it is almost everywhere else.
So this takes place in Texas, right?
Takes place in Texas.
It's like a religion there, almost.
Exactly.
In Texas especially. Because Friday Night Lights, which came out about 5 years later, people closed businesses down just so they could watch high school football.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I mean, there's definitely a culture there, and very similar to where we live in upstate New York. It wasn't as intense, but there's definitely that culture, and
right.
Right. So you have the coach that will do anything to win. I faced a coach that he would throw a box of creatine down in front of the weight room and say, hey, if you want to be on the starting team, take this stuff, quit the rest of your sports, the other sports you're doing, and be in the gym all year round.
Wow.
And that didn't sit well with me because as much as I enjoyed playing football, my love was wrestling.
Right.
And there was no way I was giving up wrestling. And at the time, I didn't know enough about fitness and what creatine was. I was like, I'm not putting that stuff in my body. I mean, now I know now, and I've educated myself now that creatine really isn't that bad. But the fact that a coach
doesn't work for everybody.
But the fact that you had a coach telling your kid, your student athletes, take this stuff, and this is the only way you're and be in the weight room. Then this is how you're going to get on the
almost
starting
sounds like
team.
peer pressure in a way.
Kind of, and it's similar to not to the extreme as like John Voight in Varsity Blues, where he's willing to do anything to win, to the point where Paul Walker has a destroyed knee, and he's injecting him full of steroids and cortisone and painkillers just to keep him on the field so he keeps his winning record.
And that as it shows, it's kind of anti-drug, the movie.
Exactly. And
it's not good to do with a high school, or I mean, not good for adults either.
And as you said, sometimes sports wasn't everybody's thing. James Vanderbeek's character clearly had way more interest than just playing football. But as soon as Paul Walker goes down and he gets the starting quarterback position, he becomes the town celebrity. His dad's living vicariously through him, and he just wants to be left alone and have fun with his friends.
Right. He wants to be a normal teenager, basically.
Yeah. So, So I mean, again, it really is an awesome movie. I don't think it gets as much praise today because it was MTV produced. There were so many coming of age teenage dramas at that time. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
I don't think so. I disagree. I disagree. It was not only a huge box office success, but it's also, I believe, I don't know if it's already come out or if it's going to be coming out, but they just released a beautiful 4K.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, nice 4K of that.
I'll have to check that out.
I get these bare bone Zhang Yimou movies on Blu-ray. They're never going to get a 4K.
Right.
Varsity Blues was a huge box office success.
Yeah, it was like a $16 million budget, 52 at the box
people
office
love that
weekend.
movie.
Yeah.
People love that movie.
It's a fantastic movie. It's really an awesome story of, again, just that teenage high school experience. And I guess me at that age going, with it in my face and going through my own stuff, it related to me.
Right.
And it just, so.
It is a relatable movie. I didn't jive with it as much as other people did. I did watch it, and I thought it was okay. And I mean, John Voight was the standout, obviously.
Right.
I mean, he's standout in anything he does.
Sure.
He's just a brilliant actor. But I don't know. I thought of it as just like a run-of-the-mill movie, but I'm in the minority because the movie, people love it. It's highly, highly loved, not by critics so much, but the important thing is not critics, it's the audience. And, 25 years later, people still are talking about it.
And again, it's one of those stories that, I think just about anybody who went through, goes through the high school experience,
right,
can find something to relate to.
Right.
So yes, number 2 on my list, again, and my list is in no particular order of favorites, but Varsity Blues, 1999, hit that spot for me.
Yes. So before we continue, and I always forget to do this, I probably should have done it at the start, subscribe to our channel. Click that subscribe button below so you never miss an episode. We do our best to post stuff weekly, and hopefully you'll be able to see us real soon. But we're working out the video angle of it. But, yeah, subscribe, comment. Tell us what your favorite 1999 movie is. And we're also on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Just our handle is @ScaredForReals.
Yes, if your coach tried to make you take drugs to get on the starting line, well, let us know.
Yeah, we'll pass it along to the FBI. No, so my next film from 1999, again, I'm trying to spotlight movies that not only I love, but are kind of underseen, and I'm talking about, the next one I want to talk about is Johnny 2, and he made a lot of amazing action epic films in the 80s and 90s. He started off doing a lot of assistant work for Golden Harvest. I don't know if you've recognized the name Johnny 2.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
So this is a 1999 classic, Running Out of Time. There's actually 2 Running Out of Time movies, but we're going to talk about the first part. It was interesting because at this time, Woo was making a big splash in Hollywood. Jackie Chan was starting to make a big splash in Hollywood, and Ringo Lam was trying to make a big splash in Hollywood, but Johnny 2 was staying behind in Hong Kong. He actually made his own production company, and he actually had another film that came out earlier in the year, and it bombed. So not a good start for his production company. It had actually been around for a year or so. He hadn't had a huge success.
Okay.
So Running Out of Time was the first money-making success for Johnny 2's production company. And it's kind of like I don't want to say buddy cop, but like the criminal and the cop are buddies.
Yep.
You've probably seen that done a zillion times. So that's basically what this movie is. You got this guy dying of cancer, okay? You find out right off the bat he got diagnosed with some sort of illness. So he's got 72 hours to live. So he decides to play a quote-unquote game with the police. He literally witnesses like a hostage robbery situation at the beginning that didn't go quite well for the hostage negotiator. But he really respects this hostage negotiator, okay? And Andy Lau, I do want to say, Andy Lau, you probably remember him from Infernal Affairs. He was in Hero. He was in House of Flying Daggers. He was still is a prominent Hong Kong star. And he was in some of the Jackie Chan Lucky Stars. Do you remember the Lucky Stars trilogy? It was kind of a comedy action stuff. I think he was in one of those. But so he knew some martial arts. Wong Kar-wai, he was prominent in Wong Kar-wai's film debut, as Tears Go By, and he was also in Days of Being Wild. He was not noted for being an action guy, though. He did a lot of romantic stuff, and he was a leading man. He did some comedies. He did some action, but he was never taken seriously as an actor.
Right.
Well, that kind of changed with Running Out of Time. He got to flex a little bit, where he played it was a complex character. The guy literally is dying. So what does he do? He plays a game, decides to rob an insurance company and steal a bunch of jewels.
Oh.
And a lot of money. And he kind of respects this hostage negotiator. So he's holding a guy hostage so the guy can come out, and he has all these explosive devices that turn out they're duds, and he shoots his hostage with a blank. So it's kind of there's some comedy elements. But it's not too funny. It's more action packed. It's a thriller, but at the same time, it's a very human type movie. And it's not a movie that a lot of people talk about. I mean, Arrow Video, brilliantly restored this movie, both films actually. Nice. But Andy Lau and Lau Ching-wan, they made a good pair. Unfortunately, Andy Lau didn't come back for the sequel. But the interesting thing is, does Andy Lau's character die at the end? Because he supposedly had 72 hours. He gets away, and the money that was taken from the insurance company mysteriously donated to a cancer hospital.
No.
So he doesn't really keep any of the money. So it's kind of ambiguous kind of ending. Like what happens with the guy?
Yeah.
But you kind of get the impression that Andy Lau's character makes it, and he's able to beat his cancer. So you don't really know. Yeah. And that's what I'm glad it's not spelled out for us, because it's like you don't need a movie to answer all the questions. And,
not all the time, definitely.
And the way
not.
Johnny 2 puts this together is so brilliant. And if you haven't seen a Johnny 2 movie, you got to see it. And I mean, this is as good of a place to start as any. Running Out of Time. Both movies are top notch. He also did like The Executioners and The Heroic Trio. It's kind of like a superhero. They're called Wonder Woman. A couple of them are called Wonder Woman, and that's another amazing double feature movie that is worth it. But 1999, Running Out of Time. It was Johnny 2's real first big success on his own. So I'm glad. I mean,
wow.
Again, Jackie Chan, John Woo, they both made it big in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He decided, I'm going to stay in Hong Kong, because at the time, the Hong Kong film industry was just flat.
Yeah.
It was really, the golden age of the 80s was over. And, I mean, Once Upon a Time in China with Jet Li was kind of a success, but it was like there wasn't a lot of huge successful movies, especially in like the mid to late 90s. It was kind of a rough time. So between this, Running Out of Time, and Infernal Affairs in the early 2000s, it brought Hong Kong cinema back into the forefront a little bit. So Running Out of Time, highly recommend it. And again, cool. Amazing Blu-ray from Arrow Video. Highly recommend it.
Arrow does awesome stuff.
Oh, they do.
They really do.
They take good care of their videos. And again, ordering from them directly, not always fun.
Yeah.
But, Diabolic DVD is definitely, they carry all of the Arrow films. And you get good care, good service, best service from Diabolic DVD.
Very cool.
Free plug. I wasn't paid to say that.
All right. Next on my list, I'm going to drag us back into our normal topic of discussion, and we're going to go with Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, Sleepy Hollow.
Yes. I love this movie. I know it's got mixed reviews. It's not based traditionally, solely on. It's a loose adaptation of the Washington Irving's short story, Legend of Sleepy Hollow. But this is something that you'll see on my house, on my TV, frequently during the Halloween season. I love the gothic horror nature of this movie. It's fun. I love how Tim Burton decided to shoot it kind of on a black and white palette with certain colors mixed in, and
it's an interesting color pattern in that.
It really is. When I first heard that, I was like, Tim Burton shot it in black and white, and then just threw like some reds in there, and it's like, wow.
Basically, he shot it like a silent movie. It was all black and white, but you take a look at Abel Gantz's Napoleon, for instance, and how he put color, tints, and everything on in the film and everything like that.
Yeah,
sounds like that's what he did, kind of like that. Obviously, he had more tools than they did back in the late 1920s. You know?
And this was also Tim Burton at the height of his powers. I think after this movie, some of his work starts to trend a little bit down, and I think a lot of that had to come with, I think people started to figure out Tim Burton. When the Tim Burton came out, at least from my perspective, there was nothing like it.
No.
Tim Burton just had such a unique way of doing things and presenting a movie, and no one really kind of figured him out. And then you got like Addams Family come out, and it kind of had the Tim Burton feel. So I think as people started to kind of figure it out and do more things kind of in that style, Tim Burton kind of lost his lust.
Well,
but
as good as the first Addams Family wasn't too bad, but no one. I mean, Ridley Scott does an amazing job with sets.
Yeah,
but Tim Burton with his set designs. Sleepy Hollow.
It's its own world.
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. I mean, the Batman, Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
I mean, amazing sets.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of grumble at some of the story and some of the just there's things don't always work in Sleepy Hollow, but the sets are just mind blowing. The cinematography, awesome.
Yeah,
Johnny Depp is fun to watch.
Johnny Depp. I'm gonna get to the cast in a second. It's just it's such an awesome cast. From the lead roles to the minor roles. But I mean, and this was a big hit. I mean,
it was huge.
Budget was estimated about $70 million. It brings home the box office $207 million.
Yeah,
I mean, huge for 1999. But talking of cast, so yes, obviously starring Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, who's a staple in that gothic world, especially in Tim Burton movies.
Right.
Then you got Michael Gambon.
Oh yeah.
You have Miranda.
The late great Michael Gambon.
Yes, exactly. Miranda Richardson, Casper Van Dien.
Late great Miranda Richardson too.
Jeffrey Jones. Let's not talk much about him. It's kind of his last movie before he got caught. Christopher Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee shows up. The Burgomaster.
Yeah. Richard Griffiths, Ian McDermott.
Ian McDermott.
McDermott, yes.
Yeah, Palpatine.
The
Emperor.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was interesting to see
Alfred himself, Michael Goff.
Yeah. Mr. Hammer Studios himself.
Yeah, so and the list goes on, and then we have our Headless Horseman played by two people.
Yeah.
Ray Park, who everybody will become to know in the next year as Darth Maul from Phantom Menace.
Well, same year, actually.
Same year.
Yeah.
But
I think Phantom Menace came out first, I think.
Did it come out first?
Yeah, when did Sleepy Hollow came out? I know it came out in 1999, obviously. But
it doesn't say what month it came.
But I know for a fact Phantom Menace, we didn't even talk about Phantom Menace. That was like a phenomenon in itself.
Well, I mean, it was the first Star Wars movie in how many years?
Yeah.
George Lucas returning and telling the origin. But, I mean, that's a whole different story. But, so you have Ray Park playing the head. I mean, he also went on to do, the first Snake Eyes in G.I. Joe. He went on to be Nightcrawler in the first X-Men movie. So I mean, he stuntman martial artist.
Yeah, the year after X-Men came out. That's right.
And then the face of the Headless Horseman is iconically by Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah, he's unbilled. He
was unbilled, so that was kind of a surprise to see.
I mean,
Chris
even like for a minute, it's like literally a minute he's in the movie.
Yeah,
but Christopher Walken always makes an impression.
I mean,
they didn't even give him a dance number.
No, but he didn't need it. Didn't even give him a line. Probably the easiest movie he'd ever done in his life. He just had to growl a couple times. And
the interesting thing with Christopher Walken is like, I know for like Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
Like Spielberg would just be like wowed with him. Like he would do something different each take.
Yeah.
And for Pulp Fiction, I mean, he's in it for like not even 5 minutes.
Sure.
He did. Tarantino had him do 3 different takes, and he took a little bit from each one.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, Christopher Walken is just always fun to watch.
So, and again, this movie is based loosely on the Washington Irving short story poem or whatever you want to call it.
That was a big gripe, is how long it seemed long.
It does seem long.
It does drag.
And again, Ichabod Crane, he was a school teacher. In this movie, he's a detective from New York City.
He's got all these gadgets.
Yeah, it's almost.
It was fun.
No, it's funny. He's almost like investigating the Ripper murders.
Yeah.
And it's so.
And interestingly enough, Johnny Depp would go on to From Hell, like 2 years later,
graphic, movie
playing,
based off the graphic novel. It's basically the same character.
Almost. Just an opium addict.
I was just gonna say that. Ichabod Crane is an opium addict, and you got the character from Hell.
The late great Ian Holm is in From Hell, and he was brilliant as Jack the Ripper. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
So this is a fun gothic horror, a Halloween favorite of mine. It's just a cool movie. Again, I just can't get over the atmosphere that Tim Burton creates with this movie. And
he always creates an atmosphere, that's for sure.
And again, 1999, when you hear that Tim Burton just made a movie in all black and white, and you're like, really? And then you go see what you saw. I mean, it was stunning to see.
I wish I could have seen it on the big screen. It sounds like you got to see it on the big screen.
I did.
Yeah, there is a nice. I don't know if they released a limited edition steelbook earlier.
Yes.
And did you get it, Adam?
I don't have the steelbook.
Yeah, I didn't get it either. It's not one I have it on DVD. I'm kind of comfortable with it. I have to focus. We all have to focus with limited budgets, right? So it's a fun movie. I don't revisit it as often as you do, though.
Well, again, it's just kind of like one of those lists. As we get to late September, early October, the spooky time of the year. And I, in my house, and I want something in the background, and you'll catch it on everyone. It's just like all your favorite Christmas movies during the Christmas time. Whether you're like sitting down watching it, or if it's just background noise in your house just while you're doing chores or putting around, during the Halloween season, Sleepy Hollow is always in that rotation.
Interesting.
Something that's going to be on.
It's an Oscar winner. I mean, those sets, man, the cinematography. And even though Danny Elfman kind of does like rehash of his old scores, I mean, his music is always fun to listen to.
I mean, hey, what a team there, Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. We could do a whole show on that.
Yeah.
I mean, what a pairing.
Right.
What a pairing.
Well, and I mentioned Zhang Yimou with Gong Li.
Yeah.
They did 8 movies together. I mean, Tim Burton and Johnny Depp weren't romantically linked, but
no.
Johnny Depp was definitely his muse, for crying out loud. They've collaborated several times.
Sure.
Several times.
Yeah, no, Tim Burton likes to reuse his people. I mean, look how many times he used Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And now we got the new Beetlejuice, which is Winona Ryder. He used her a lot. And they're all coming back. Catherine O'Hare, she was used a lot in his movies. So I mean,
he's got his current girlfriend, Monica Bellucci. That's what she's got an amazing persona. I can't wait to see her in the movie. That's about all I'm looking forward to with that. I'm just these nostalgia things.
Yeah, just point being is Tim Burton has his cast of characters that he likes, and he always gets the best out of them. You know, so. Looking forward to Beetlejuice 2, but yes, Sleepy Hollow, 1999, Halloween favorite of mine.